Stephen Whyte is the Chief Operating Officer and the Executive Director of Exploration at Galp Energia, and he joins us here today at the Africa Oil Assembly. Stephen, thanks for coming.
Thanks, Drake. Nice to be here.
Okay, Stephen, so we just heard in your talk that Galp Energia have a very long-term footprint in Africa. I think some 40 years you've been on this continent. But I just want to back up a little bit and maybe give us a 30-second overview for those of us who don't know exactly who you are and what you do. What kind of company is Galp? What do you do?
So Galp's the largest Portuguese company of any type, and we're an integrated company, so that's upstream, downstream and gas and power. We're relatively recently grown our position in exploration production. So these days of our 10 billion 5-year plan for capital, 2 billion per year, 70% of that's going to exploration production. And we're spread already in Angola, where we have production, in Mozambique, and Namibia, plus Morocco. So we've got a fairly substantial footprint in the continent.
And I suppose a lot of people know Galp maybe for their work in Brazil, in the Portuguese-speaking countries in the world. Now, you were in Brazil first. How is your knowledge of that area translated into West African exploration, if at all?
So I think the important thing is that the pre-salt play in Brazil is quite transferable to the west coast of Africa as well. But it's not just the actual geology that's transferable, it's how you work with long-term, with host governments, with partnerships, and we've worked in a very favourable way with Petrobras over a long period, and we hope that that skill in working with other parties, other partners and governments transfers effectively across to what we do in Africa.
And sort of going forward, how important is Africa, how important is it right now? You said 70% maybe of your sort of activities. Is that going to increase in the future? How important is Africa in the whole portfolio of your assets?
So it's actually 70% of our spend goes on E&P rather than downstream and gas. In terms of Africa, we have very significant growth in Mozambique. In Angola, we have some developments as well, but we also have exploration opportunities in Namibia and Morocco. So from a go-forward point of view, we have many new developments plus exploration. About 30% of our global exploration spend is on African opportunities.
Well, let's just talk about Mozambique for a second, the river basin. I mean, the gas is there, there's no doubt about it. We've been hearing about the extraordinary amounts of, I think, 100 TCF of gas, etc., depending on who you listen to. What does that look like to you? When you're looking ahead at 5 or 10 years, what does that monetization look like? How big could that become, that whole development there?
So today I think most people are familiar with Qatar and the significance it plays in the global LNG market. And I think Mozambique has the potential to be the next Qatar, so in the scale and significance of the importance for buyers of the market to be in the Mozambique market. So we're talking 10, 12, maybe more trains of LNG being based in Mozambique, so extremely significant on a world scale.
So maybe we'll be having the World Cup there in 20 years' time.
Oh, well, you never know. That's what happened in Brazil, yeah.
And in terms of Africa as a whole, I mean, this is a lot of people here at this conference very interested in this. Is it still? Are we still at the land grab stage? Is this still the gold rush stage, or would you say we're at the stage now where a lot of the best assets have been snapped up already, or is it just getting started? What's your opinion?
Well, I think there's been areas like North Africa which are fairly mature for oil and gas, but the rest of the continent has an abundance of riches, much of which is undiscovered. So as the deep water plays open up in new countries, hopefully like Namibia, but the continent, both offshore and on land, and with Tullow's discoveries in Kenya, for instance, I think it has an awful lot more to offer. So I think it's on the up rather than on the down.
And one of those areas, Morocco, is I think the last 12 months you've seen a lot of large, sizable companies, majors, people like Anadarko, Ganel, getting involved in that, a lot of activity. You've put a big bet on that, 2 million acres, I think. What's the thesis behind there? What do you like about Morocco?
Well, I think we aspire to invest in an exploration sense in countries where a lot of the data has been gathered, but no big discovery has been made. So a place where there's a known source rock, there's a known reservoir, there's a known trapping configuration. And we would like to be in before the big discovery is made, where the terms are still acceptable, and be exploring there. And that's exactly what Morocco is. We have 50% on operatorship. It's a long trend from the Cap Juby discovery made in the 70s with 70 million barrels of oil in the Middle Cretaceous, so Middle Jurassic, I should say. So I think it has all the potential to be that transformational moment from a country with lots of promise to a country that actually makes a discovery, and we're trying to play on that.
Let's look at the next 12 months for you. What are your priorities at Galp Energia? Where are you going to be spending most of your kind of your energies concentrated at? And are there any catalysts that the observer should be looking out for? Any news flow from you?
Well, I'm very happy that last week we were able to announce the arrival of the FPSO in Brazil, the second one, Cidade Paraty, which has arrived on schedule. So it's the second one we've had, and that's very significant. Give us confidence for all of the future ones. There's going to be one next year, one the year after. In terms of exploration, we've got some pretty exciting, big potential wells across our acreage in Brazil, but also in Africa. So in Namibia, we have 3 wells there. We have one in breakthrough potential well in Mozambique, and we have a well next year we expect to drill in Morocco. So, quite a nice mix of development and exploration, including development opportunities in Angola with the Kuombe development there, which is another FPSO.
And how are you set for funding? Are you looking for partners, or have you got everything sorted already?
Well, we're fortunate to be well funded. We diluted in Brazil last year, which brought the Sinopec in with $5 billion. So we're well funded and we don't need any further sources of funding. And we're ready for our LNG development to go ahead in Mozambique. So no, we're in a good position financially.
Stephen, how have you, just wanted to ask you about your impressions about this event. What do you get out of coming from an event like this?
Well, I get the buzz. I mean, we hear it today in the room, but there's a huge attendance. It's all of the relevant parties, governments, industry players. So it's quite exciting to come and feel that buzz for Africa. It's clearly on the up, and it's a well-arranged event, so I'm enjoying it very much.
So Stephen Whyte, Chief Operating Officer, Executive Director of Exploration and Production at Galp Energia, thanks for joining us at the Royal Council.
Thank you very much, Drake.